Rudy? Yes. Yeah. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Too much fun already. We already started. All right. Hope these cards made it safely to your mom's basement. She's very proud. She's very proud. There's no telling what obstacles this package has come across on its journey to your dungeon. Quite a bit, folks. These original Zendikar expeditions have treated me well over the years, accumulated slowly over time. What can I say? I like the cards. I'm at the point where these have become more of an investment. Now I see better investment opportunities in the CCG taco world. I know you have an affinity. Ooh, dropping the A word, huh? No, you have an affinity for these masterpiece cards. I mean, who doesn't? My favorite has always been Forbidden Orchid. Forbidden Orchid. That's such a cool card. As those packages, I stopped and audited the card one last time. My precious, please wash the taco sauce when opening these. Fine. Thanks, Rob. So, yes, folks, we're going back to talk about the original masterpieces. So, for those of you who are not aware, and if you're new to the world of cardboard and the smells of ink and chemicals, back in the day, was this 2015? What year was this? Back in the day, yeah, 2015. Look at that, got it right. Look at me. Blind squirrel gets a nut sometimes. Back in 2015, Wizards had a huge announcement, a fancy little flashy show on, and all these lights. And I think even like Will Wheaton was hosting it, and Will Wheaton, the old W squared. And he said, by the way, at the end of the presentation on Zendikar, he announced that there's going to be treasure cards hidden inside Zendikar, known as expeditions, also known as masterpieces, as the beginning of a new chase card era. That was their solution. Because obviously after the original Zendikar, where they actually reinserted actual Power 9 reserve list cards that Wizards supposedly accumulated from the open market. But I believe they actually had them. I mean, they didn't reprint them, they just had them all on. Anyway, so after that, moving forward, instead of reinserting very expensive old cards, they created a la Masterpiece series, aka Lottery Card, aka Expeditions. So this sparked the beginning of a new era. In 2015, Rudy's mass box opening of hundreds of Zendikar expeditions made my eyeballs go nutsos, and I loved them. Kaladesh rolled around a year or two later, and I became very negative Nancy and misjudged it when Mark Rosewater says that we plan on doing lottery cards with every set. I changed my attitude and realized, holy crap, this is not special. Everything's going to be flashy in the future. And that was my first glimpse into the future. By the time we reached 2017, and everything was going to be flashy and not special, and the cards were not going to be good. Here we are in 2021. Well, the instinct was right, and everything being flashy in the future with 100 variants and versions turned out to be true, far beyond anybody could have ever imagined. So today we're going to take a quick look here. And by the way, some of these cards that have damage, let me show you something. Some of these cards that have actual damage on them, see this along the edging here? This is usually not from the individual playing with the cards. A lot of lottery cards had damage from the actual packs themselves. Like right out of the pack, these have the From the Vault styling, super polished, really fancy schmancy foiling. It's a different type of foiling. The downside is they were extremely condition sensitive. Of course, back then, nobody really played with them. Damn, everybody literally pulled them out, sleeved them, never touched them again, so it wasn't a big deal. But yes, some of these defective ones, and also a lot of lottery cards, there it is. If you're not aware of it, or one way to tell you have authentic ones, is a lot of Masterpiece cards from Zendikar have a curved spot here from when the machine grabbed and pulled them. You will see a curved wear mark right in the middle there. Over 50%, I believe, of lottery cards actually have that particular wear mark. It's quite interesting. So let's take a look here. We got, by the way, this is pretty much a combination. I'm pretty sure this is Zendikar and Oath. I could be wrong. Oath, that particular block. So 3 Ancient Tombs. And there's the infamous Orchid with that incredible artwork. And little did everybody, and you know what's funny? Nobody talks about it anymore, but a long time ago, the biggest complaint of these was Wizards called them full arts. And you can see the full art through the text box. But everybody was like, why on earth did you cover up a third of the artwork? Everybody knows. I mean, they should have been textless, like player rewards back in the day, or F&M full arts. Can you imagine if these were truly full art without the text? There was no reason to have, Flooded Grove and have this giant text box with white like that. There's no reason. You could see how much more amazing these would have been. That was a huge thing back in the day. Filter lands, Rudy's favorite, but everybody else hates them. the old Heath and Bastion there, Firelit Thicket. Again, seriously, try to visualize for half a second if this part was gone and you could see that red fiery lava look through this whole card. Like it changes the whole vibe of the card. A lot of cheaper filter lands here, Sunken Ruins, again, Mystic Gate. And now we get to the more expensives. You got the fetchies, you got good old Misty, the ex-girlfriend. We got a play set. And then, of course, you got old Arid over here. We got the old Tarn, Steam Vents for shocks now. And then going over to Godless, more shocks, Temple, Stomp, Blood, Watery, Hallowed. And then now we're into the little kind of a specialty type of specialty lands here, the old Canopies. You got the old Cinder, and also known as the cheap ones, Smoldering Marsh, Sunken, and, of course, Prairie. So that's kind of what's going on. I thought it's important, like I said, one of the things I've been focusing on this channel, kind of as we march forward now to almost 2022, I know, right? One of the things I've kind of been spending some more time to talk about with all of you is that as the years go by, it's important to kind of keep some of this information, historical events, have some sort of record of it. Because, you know, I know some of you have been around the channel for a long time. It's old news. It's kind of sounding redundant at times. But the amount of people who watch these videos or patrons or comments or emails that send me messages going, Rudy, dude, I didn't know that. I didn't know when these expeditions came out. Everybody was upset because the full art expeditions were called full art. And they actually blocked 1/3 of the artwork on the card from the artist. Yeah, if you look closely, you can see the rest of the art through the text box. So that was a really controversial thing. And number two, the market sentiment, how much it changed when Kaladesh hit. And Mark Rosewater said that everything was going to have lottery cards. And everybody started freaking out. And I led the charge of negativity and everything. Now, obviously, fast forward, they did not do that. If anything, they actually backpedaled really quick because when Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan hit, they actually took the lottery cards, stripped them from the set, and used them as flip cards. Because the back of those cards in Ixalan, the flip cards, were supposed to be masterpieces. I know, right? Can you imagine if those actually were masterpieces? The Ixalan boxes are already 150 plus. Those things would be 200-300 now. So it's just a really, you know, the amount of historical events and people and things that happen are just lost as the days turn to weeks, that turn to months, which turn to years, which turn to decades. And people all the time, like, you know, I'm telling you all, a chunk of the viewers go, I didn't know any of this. Where's this? I didn't know that. And there's nowhere to find information like that. There's no one to really click on, or there's not a video or a documentary to discuss how these releases and events and products and the turbulent life cycle of these things. So to jump back to the kind of the cards in this video here, almost knocked the camera over. To jump back to the cards in this particular video. So yes, I do still love the original expeditions. I don't love them and don't have the excessive passion I did in 2015 when I was still a mass box opener, and that's what I was doing with the store. I was not on YouTube. That's when I was running that particular type of business. It was very profitable. I don't regret it at all. I learned a lot. And one thing I have to admit that I really lost from stepping away from that is I don't know the cards in the meta, in the details. I don't learn about each standard release like I used to. That's one thing I can tell you all. When you do mass box opening, you become almost like a master. After like 6 months of mass box opening, singles, listings, sorting, dealing with them, and pricing and price checking daily type thing, you become a master of every single set because you handle it so much. You know every good card, what cards sell, what cards suck, what cards get a pump and dump, what cards spike in price, and you wake up and some card has 30 of them sold, and you really learn the market and the meta and the news and the net decks, and you're part of the, I wouldn't say community, but you learn the ecosystem a lot healthier. Where now in 2021, I am the most disconnected from the standard meta net deck, fancy, you got to be a part of it. Rudy doesn't play the game, or of course not. I'm a business owner now at this point, and my schedule is filled with so much work. No, I do not have time, and I don't get to play anymore, which sucks, but that's part of the reality of running any form of LGS, any form of business, any form of ladies of the night. That is part of life. So it's just interesting, and I have to admit That's why I always recommend, people say, well, Rudy, even in this environment, do you think people should start an LGS or open a, I said, look, and I should have another video on that, but overall, the short answer is, the TLDR is that, nobody should start a business unless you have something specific or a niche to offer. If you already have an online presence, if you have a specialty method or something unique to offer or a process to move the product that gives you a competitive advantage or a unique opportunity, then it's different. But 99% of us do not. So, moving forward, where do I feel about these original things? I'm actually very impressed that the prices have held up and continue to actually do quite well. I mean, nothing seems to be competing with the Kaldheim masterpieces. My goodness, those things are like bricks of gold now. But, the Zendikar is not far behind it. The Amon kitty cats and the invocations and, that are kind of, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards really don't seem to be doing nearly as much. But it does appear these cards are going to hold their value, and some have continued to kind of drift up as the years go by, which is an interesting thing, But overall, I still stand by my original thing. No, I do not consider them investments. I do not consider these investable. These are a collectible type of card class. These are fun things. I enjoy them. They're nostalgic for me because of my mass box opening. This is kind of the end of the era that I did mass box opening. But I do not label or look at a card like this or a purchase like this as an investment. I just don't. That's just my personal opinion. And again, you can always seek a licensed real advisor with a real office that wears, a real suit and tie and actually has pants. But for me, I just enjoy them. There are sometimes purchases like this that I make because I actually still, kind of enjoy it. That's kind of my speech with these particular products. I think the upside value for those of you looking to collect or invest on these things, they do have a limited upside. I don't think they're ever going to be reprinted in this particular framework style. I think there'll be variants in 100 different other versions with every other shock and fetch land over the next 5-10 years. Just like, the Modern Horizons 2 with 10 different foilings and variants, but I don't think it's really going to impact a particular version of a printed piece of art in framework style. But I don't consider it an investment. In my opinion, an investment is something that I feel accrues value over a long period of time. Not something that, every 6-12 months gets the reprint hammer and a new version, new variant, where there's now 20 different versions of shock lands or 10 different versions of fetch lands, and it doesn't make any particular version, ultimately superior. And I know some of you are going to say, well, Rudy, not true. Lightning Bolt from Alpha, $1,000. Lightning Bolt from 4th edition, $1. Lightning Bolt promos and F&Ms and Lightning Bolt promos and GPs and Lightning Bolt judge foils and, okay, look. The Alpha is obvious. An Alpha is a 1st edition without saying 1st edition. Every card game has a 1st edition. Just because Magic doesn't say 1st edition on the Alpha Sarah Angel, it's still a 1st edition. Now some games, the Pokemon and Flesh and Blood, they label 1st editions. That is a real thing. Other card games, let's see here. Actually, even Metazoo labels 1st edition. But overall, Magic doesn't really label 1st editions, although 1st editions exist. So, kind of my speech. Kind of a fun little thing to acquire here. Thought it'd be a nice change of pace to talk about some lottery cards today. That's all I really have. Hope you guys learned something. History is a funny thing. And I think the biggest irony of life is that as the years progress, the way people talk about something is not actually reflective of the true history of the items. It's very bizarre how that is. And the more almost controversial or the more emotion tied to something, the more distorted the historical timeline becomes. It's a funny thing, isn't it? Have a great day. Hope you learned something. Go outside. Go eat a carrot.